So welcome back. In our previous video, we were talking about software analysis models. Prior to that, we had a discussion on all these topics related to the introduction, software engineering model, your BPM, BRMS, and service-oriented architecture, along with your software requirements engineering. So in your software analysis model, we looked into what basically your software analysis is, why we actually need this software analysis model, then the possible software analysis models, where we said that we have the options like your data flow diagrams, we have use case analysis, we have use case activity diagrams, and then we have state diagrams as well. And we said data flow diagrams are nothing but the DFDs in short form. We call it as use case activity diagrams. It's the UCADs, right? And then we had the option of like what all things your data flow diagrams offer, your system analysis using the DFDs, that means the software package does these things like receiving information, then processing it, then output, then writing it. Then we saw one example of data flow diagram just to get a feel of it. Then later on we looked into the focus on the logical view, and then we started looking into the constituents of this data flow diagram, where we said that we have your entities or the source or sink, we have the data flows in the form of these arrows, and then we said that okay, we have processes that is in a form of either a circle or in a form of these squares or the rectangles with circular ends. Then we have the data stores, where the possibility is that I'll have one end open, or there is a possibility that okay, I'll have something like this with both the ends open. And then we talked about your different types of DFDs, starting from level 0, which is also called as your context level diagram, which is like the highest abstraction, and up to the nth level, it can be level 1, level 2, or so on and so forth. So in today's video, we are going to focus on drawing a level 0 diagram and a level 1 diagram. So in level 0 diagram, list the categories of business users who interact with the software package, list the major data source whose data is required to carry out on the automated operations, and show the entire software package as a single process box with number as P1. So the crucial thing is single process box. This is the thing which can let you identify that okay, this is something which is a level 0 data flow diagram. Then you need to list the categories of business users. That means if suppose I am coming up with an application for a university, so it can be, let's say, student, one category. Second category can be faculty. Third can be staff. Right, so all the possible categories. I'm just taking a random example in this case. Then list. So first is your this point to be considered. Second is this point to be considered. That means single process box, then categories of business users. For example, this one. And the last one is the data stores, the major data stores, and you are good for the level 0 diagram. Right. So the third one, data store, that means whose data is required to carry on the automated operations. 3 things and we are good for this level 0. First and foremost, very crucial, single process box. Second one, the categories of business users, and the third one is data stores. So let's see a simple possible example of same loan management software package. Previously we saw this while we were getting some glimpse of your data flow diagram, but right now we are looking into this particular example, keeping level 0 in mind, right? This time what I'm doing is I'm keeping level 0 in mind. So what I've done is, first thing first, single process box, I have this thing P1 as a single process box, which is my loan management software package. So process I'm done with. Next is categories of business users. So here what I see is, one is your loan management staff, another one is your customers. So two categories I've identified, and I've made these boxes with the help of, see, these are entities, right? This is your process, right? This one is your process. Here I am getting the entities. On this side I am getting the data stores. So what I've done is I've identified the categories, which is like staff and the customers, and then the data flow is like the loan management package will be get from here. The loan management staff is sending the loan type details to this package, which goes to the storage of DS1, which stores the loan type details, and then gets some acknowledgement. Customer will be applying for the loan, so through this package the information goes to this storage, which is your loan application detail, and getting the response, the acknowledgement is received by this. So that's how it works. Let's take another example where we let's take our own university level system. So what we can have is, in the middle I have a university management system, right? Let me reduce the size of it. Yeah, so I have a university management system. Sorry, here I made a spelling mistake. So this will be your P1, and it will be with a rectangle with the circular corners, round corners. On this end, since it is level 0, so what I'm doing is like I'm giving employee as one entity, right? In the further successive level, what I'll do is I'll classify this employee into faculty and staff, right? Not for this level, just for your sake of understanding I'm giving you the basic idea. In the next level I'll classify further. I can go ahead with this. At this moment of time I'm keeping it as simple employee. On the other hand, let me take students now. So once again, entity. On this side I need to take the data stores. So what I will do is, let me take two data stores at this moment of time. Faculty is employee details. Further I'll classify into faculty and staff details as well. Employee details. And what kind of box it will be? Obviously this is going to be of this kind. And in, let's say, successive levels, even I am keeping it like this, then also it's okay, because I'll have this database will have several tables, right? Table 1 for, let's say, faculty details, table 2 for, let's say, staff details. So it does not make any sense that even further I have to take care of these databases as well. So data store 2 will have student details, right? And what I'm left with? I'm left with adding arrows. So for that sake, what I'm going to do is from here, this is data flow 1 and this is data flow 2. This will be acknowledgement to 1. So here it can be, let's say, student, I'm entering the grades details, right? And on this end, the students will be applying for, let's say, course data flow 3, course registration, and it can be any query related to, let's say, elective as well. So data flow 4 will be an acknowledgement number 2, because acknowledgement number 1 went here, right? Acknowledgement number 1 went here, so acknowledgement 2 comes this side. Further, on this side, this university management system sends the details, receives it. Here also it does the same work. It can be, let's say, for course related information, or maybe if suppose student has gone for, let's say, faculty related query, some faculty related query, so it would be, let's say, data flow 5, that can be your faculty details or staff details, right? And it would be like coming and going, so I'll A and B, I'm merging it here. Similarly on this end, I'll have data flow 6A and B, and let's say what I'm getting is grade details, right? So it would be, if suppose anyone is fetching grade details, let's say employees fetching some details, so from here, and this is like the receiving end. So that's how we are making a level 0 DFT. Simple one, very simple one. Few things we need to keep in mind. One process box, as we said, single process box. Second is categories of business users. So I have identified this as the categories of business users, right? So what all categories I have? I have like employees, I have students, and the last one is your data stores, right? So what I am going to do is, on this end I have the data stores as well. So single process, categories of business users, and the data stores. And let's decompose this particular level 0 DFT, right? So what we have is, this is the top level, and what we have done is we have further decomposed it. How we have decomposed it is that this time I brought several users into it. This will be much more clearer when we'll go ahead with level 1, because decomposing this level 0, or maybe let's take this particular one, decomposing this level 0 DFT will take me to level 1 DFT, right? So further decomposition, see, as we previously studied, this is the highest level of abstraction, and based on our requirements, I'll move to successive stage of these data flow diagrams, or the levels of these data flow diagrams. So your level 0 DFD will be further broken down into more specific level 1 DFD. So from this we have obtained this, which depicts the basic modules in the system and the flow of data among these various modules. So your level 1 DFD also mentions the basic processes and the sources of information. And looking at this particular diagram, you can say that this particular level 1 DFD is having more details than what the level 0 DFD was having. And obviously this level 1 DFD will not be having as much details as level 2 DFD will have if required. So it breaks down the main processes into sub processes. So previously we had like P1, this time what we have is we have P1 1.1, we have P1 1.2, we have 1.3, we have 1.4. So we are breaking down the main processes into sub processes that can be analyzed and can be improved on a more crisp level. So you can edit this DFD level 1 and make it to level 2 as well if required. Right, so based on our need, I'll be keep on moving from one level to other as and when required. So what we do is that in case of your level 1 DFD, I have broken down the processes. So how do we go ahead with this level 1 DFD? I need to identify the processes, and each data flow into the system must be received by a process. And for each data flow into the system, I need to examine the documentation about the system, and I need to talk to the user to establish a plausible process of system that receives the data flow. And each process must have at least one output data flow. Right, each process must have at least one data flow. That means one data flow in the output format. So each output data flow of the system must have been sent by a process only. That means your output flow towards the process, towards the entity will be sent by a process only. In fact, in our previous video also we had a discussion on it, that my database cannot directly interact with my entity. So I need to identify the processes that sends each system output. Then I need to draw the data flows between the external entities and the processes. And then I need to identify the data stores by establishing where the data needs to be held within the system. I also need to add the data flows flowing between processes and the data stores within the system. And each of my data store must have at least one input data flow and one output data flow. Otherwise, data may be stored and never used, or a store of the data must have come from nowhere. See, to the data store I will be sending something and I will be receiving something, because if I am not sending something, then how the data is getting stored. That means it is getting the data from somewhere else, and so the data, and even if it is getting the data from somewhere else, then also it has some inflow. If it does not have some inflow, then the data must have come from nowhere. So ensure every data store has input and output data flows to system process. So these are the points which you need to be keep in mind while drawing the data flow diagrams. So most processes are normally associated with at least one data store. Right, most of my processes will be associated with at least one data store. And I need to check my diagram, and each process should have an input and an output. And each data store should have an input and an output. And then check the system details to see if any process appears to be happening for no reasons. That means some triggered data flow is missing. Right, so I need to keep these points in my mind. And anyways, in my level 1 DFD, the context diagram, which is my level 0 DFD, which is already now into multiple processes, and in this we will be highlighting the main functions of the system and the breaking down the high level process into your sub processes. Alright, so recall our process 1, which was loan management software. Now what we have is, we have like several processes, like in both these diagrams, in both these examples, we had a process. Now we are breaking down these processes into multiple sub processes. So my loan management software package, that means my loan LMS package, now has A, which is validate loan type changes, validate loan type changes. Then I have approve loan type changes, then we have validate loan application details, and the last one which we have kept is approve loan application details. Approve loan application details. So that's how a single process has been divided into 4 sub processes. So now let's see the entire details of my level 1 DFD. So on this side, previously we had staff and the customers only. This time staff, loan management head, and the customers. So I've divided this entity further as well. So staff is going to validate, customer is going to see the application detail, and data stores remains the same, these 2 loan type details and your loan applications. That means my data store are same in number. I went further divided because what I've assumed is that I'll have multiple tables, all the loan details here, all the loan applications here, the customer details also coming from here. So on this side, loan management staff has provided the loan type details, this end. So process 1 is validating that whether everything provided is correct or not, and then it goes to the loan type details. It receives the acknowledgement, and via this process my loan management staff is getting the details about the changes made. That means in the form of acknowledgement. On this end, loan management head will be approving the loan type through this particular process, right? And once again, he or she will also get the acknowledgement. On this end, I'll be dealing with the loan approval. So the loan management head is going to approve the details, approve the loans. Here also he'll receive that acknowledgement, and through this database, once again, customer is able to get the loan application details and the acknowledgement whether it is approved or not. Right, so this is how we have moved from level 0 to level 1. And this level 1 can also be further decomposed and it can be brought to another level of this DFD, which can be your level 2 if required. So now let's look into the process description. So this is my unit level process description, right? Means after this diagram, I need to give the details about the processes as well. So what we have is, we have loan management system where I have a data flow in, which is like, for example, data flow 1A, data flow 2A is the output, right? So what we have is data flow 1A and data flow 1A is going to this, receiving this, right? So input and output, and process name is validate loan type changes. Validate loan type change. This is my process name, P1.1 number. Process name is validate loan type changes. Now what it does is, the loan management staff can create a new loan type, modify or deactivate an existing loan type. They do so by accessing this software, choosing the options A, B or C and filling it in the loan type details. Now my process P1.1 will validate each field of the loan type details. That means whether I am creating or I am bringing some changes, and if there are any errors, it will display the same to the loan management staff. Then my loan management staff will then correct the errors and resubmit the details. And if there are no errors, the process P1.1 will write the details on the data store DS1. Right, that's how it goes on. If everything is correct, the writing is done over here. The writing is done over here. Right, this is the part. And that's how we describe a process. So after this, that means after this diagram, means we started from here, right? We took another example, but we started from here on the loan management software package. We moved to this. Now we have to come up with the process description. So this table will be your process description. After which, what I am going to do is, I'll be taking the description of each processes, data flows, data stores in a tabular format. So here what we are doing is, we are describing the data flows. So what I have done is, I've made a table where one column is talking about the data flows and other column is talking about the data items, and then we have a column on remarks. Right, so what I have is, I have data flow 1A, 2A and then 1B, 2B, all these things are there, and I need to mention the data items for these data flows. For data flow 1A, that means which is your loan type details, I have your loan type name, I have your loan type description, I have some eligibility rules and the activation details, right? So all these things are flowing through this data flow 1A. So in data flow 2A, I have the acknowledgement for 1A. That means I can have some error message, or I can have new loan type ID as a creation, right? So changes the acknowledgement. That means either I'll get some error message, or I'm going to get the acknowledgement with accompanied with a loan ID, let's say loan ID, right? This is loan, not load. So you don't have to take any load, it's taking loan, so it's loan ID. Next one is your loan approval, which also talks about this. Then it has an acknowledgement which also talks about this. So that's how you describe your data flow. Now, so what we have is, we have 4 components, right? Processes we have talked about, process description. Now data flow we are talking about. Now we are left with data stores description. So in this case, we'll talk about your data stores, all the data stores. In this example, whether we see the level 1 or we see level 0, right? The data stores remains the same. That means 2 data stores I have, and these 2 data stores, your data store 1, which is titled as loan type details, has the loan type name, the type description, the eligibility rule and the activation date. Similarly, for data store 2, I have these many 10 details about the storage, right? This one and this one. So whenever a question comes, so you have to come up with the diagram, then this descriptions and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about the quality guidelines. Of course, completeness and consistency should be there, right? Completeness and consistency should be there. Both the things should be there. In case of completeness, that means all components should be included and should be there in the project dictionary as well. See, in my dictionary, I should have the details about all these components. That means your entities, your name of the tables, your data flows and so on and so forth. Next is your consistency. So the consistency between the levels, right? Consistency between the levels includes balancing. So the consistency between the various levels, your balancing, leveling, right? Everything. That means if something is there in level 0, I need to have the detail and the further subdivision in the level 1. It should not be that the level 1 is missing entirely a particular process which was there in level 0. Now iterative nature, that means revisions are common, so it's possible, it's well accepted. My diagram should be in a way that it should adopt the changes, right? It should adopt the changes. And then decomposing into primitives, that means lowest level, when to stop. That call I need to take, that call should come from the project manager, right? That means when to stop is the call which the project manager should take. So let's take the same example of our loan management software package. So when we talk about incorrectness or inconsistency in the DFD, so if suppose I'm adding a direct connection between the entity and the data store or the 2 data stores, so it's not possible practically. My data stores cannot interact directly. An entity cannot interact with my data store correctly. So this is like there is an incorrectness and there is an inconsistency, right? So the flow of data between entities is not the part of automation. Yeah, so here also in this diagram, this particular thing is not correct. Two entities cannot directly interact. Similarly, two data stores cannot directly interact. So all these things are incorrect. Right. So how can an entity write or read the information to or from a data store without going through a software package? See, ultimate aim of my software package is this only. Right. Ultimate aim of my package. See, I cannot directly get in touch with the database and I can get some useful information. Obviously, through the software package, there will be a layer of software package which will help me in interacting with this data store, and here I am sitting as the end user. Right, so that's not possible. These things are not possible. And similarly, can a data store only supply information without receiving it? That is also not possible, right? Recall, few minutes back we were talking about what to do, what not to do. So my data store should also receive some information somewhere, from somewhere. Can a data store only receive information and never supply? This also does not make sense until unless there is a replica, right? Separate replica. So main database is still, I have, suppose, let's say, maintain a replica, then it's possible that it is only receiving information. Then also, even in that case, for the cases like replicas, whenever I need to get the data then also from this replica. So there will always be a two-way communication, right? Receiving at the receiving end, and so data store will be receiving some information and will be sending some information. It will not be a single arrow. If suppose you have a single arrow, then also it's not correct. So I need to have two arrows here, right? Any if suppose there is some process, so I need to have, let's say here I have a process P1, let's say, so there will be two arrows, not one. And of course not correct, there will be some process in between. And can one data store write application details onto another data store without going through a software package? Right. So this thing, once again, not possible. I need to have a software package in between, then only there can be a possibility, right? I guess you might have never heard about two databases interacting without a software layer in between, right? So this was all about your incorrectness or inconsistencies in a DFD. In our next video, we are going to talk about the data flow diagram, your object oriented analysis, where will look into a very interesting part as well. So there we'll talk about your use case approach, and then we'll look into your object oriented analysis design, which is your use case diagrams, and your UCATs, your use case activity diagrams, right? So this is like a foundation of going ahead with calculating the efforts as well. So these things are like something which are very interesting. So let's finish this particular topic, that I need to have a correct and a consistent data flow diagram, right? So there should be a consistency, there should be a completeness, and it should be iterative in nature. That means your revisions are always acceptable, right? Because from these diagrams I'll be able to identify that, okay, my system needs some changes. So for that sake, I need to have some amount of scope where I can adapt these changes, right? I can have these revisions possible. There is something a very interesting, which is your HIPPO diagram. Right. So what HIPPO stands for? It's hierarchical input process output. Right. So HIPPO, that means hierarchical input process output diagram. So this is nothing but a combination of two organized methods to analyze the system and provide the means of document. So this was given by IBM in the year somewhere in the year 1970. So these are the things used for documentation purposes only. So the graphical representation makes it easier for designers and managers to get the pictorial idea of the system structure. Right. So what we have is, let's say I have like online class, or maybe let's talk about online sales. That would be a bit more interesting. Topmost hierarchy. Below it, what I have is I have authentication. I have my inventory check. I have payment process. Then I have like dispatch. Right. Below inventory, what I can have is like issue, return, and then further I can have missing. Right, I can have some missing items. So these are like input process outputs in a hierarchical structure, nothing more than that. So what we do is we are depicting the flow of control of a data in a module, taking into the hierarchy of input and output. Right, so simplest possible way in order to represent the hierarchy of input outputs. Right, so what we have is the online sale on top. Then we have like authentication, inventory check, and payment process, dispatch, same level. Below inventory I have like these three things. Below authentication also I can have, if possible. For payment also I can have several processes like online UPI and other stuff. For dispatch also I can have several other stuff. Right. So simplest thing, hierarchical input process output diagram. So this was all about today's video. In the next video, as we said, we'll talk about your data object oriented analysis. See you soon.